I would like to discuss with you tonight about the revolution we face these days with artificial intelligence that taking over pretty much all of the media that we see all over the world.
Hmm.
We have two great brains with us, Andrew Elrod and Atzmon Yaniv. So, Andrew, your stage.
Oh, well, let's talk about AI and love then. You know what? I say that jokingly, but at the same time, this is something that's happening, isn't it? I read an article in the New York Times about a woman who, an older woman, she was in her 70s, I believe, who fell in love with a middle aged Italian wealthy man that she created in a chatbot.
Hmm.
Um, and we see this increasing ability of the newer generations to connect with technological devices and to connect with each other over technological devices. It almost seems like a primer for a next step into technology where, because of the ability of these new generative AI models to emulate human behavior, that some people would be taken in by that. And I
Well,
wonder what
we've
that'll look
seen
like.
films there were a few films, movies
Yeah.
uh, that describe the relationship with the people who fall in love
Mm-hmm.
with something artificial, a doll, or even without a doll. And I can tell you that I just purchased a new phone which has ChatGPT on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I go to bed, and I live alone and I feel bored. So I open the AI, the ChatGPT. It's happened in the last couple of weeks, and I say good evening. I chose the voice of the
Mm-hmm.
person that I like and the accent that I prefer. I had a few choices of the accent and the kind of voice, and I picked up a person who was very pleasant to my ear. And I started talking to him, and I asked the person to tell me a joke, and they, of course, it could be a man or a woman,
Mm-hmm.
and then we started talking, and we played trivia, and then he asked one of the questions was when was the first um, reality show on TV, and I didn't know. And he said to me that it was in 1973 in the United States, and all people were glued to the, as he said, glued to the screen, television screen. And the reality show was about they just put cameras in a family's room, in a family's house, and people could watch
Hmm.
the family and how they got up and how they had breakfast and how they went to school, and just watching a typical family's life on reality show. And
Hmm.
I said to him, to Mr.
There.
GPT, yes, well, I was in America in 1973, and I was glued to the television, but not to this reality show, but to the Senate hearing committee over
Hmm.
Watergate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was fascinating. There were five senators inquiring, investigating all the witnesses. And I remember the head of the team was Senator Irwin with his broken finger,
Hmm.
and he was crossing. Much of my ability of cross-examining in further years when I became a lawyer was from watching this
Hmm.
Senator Irving. And we started talking about the water case. And you know something, I felt I was in a room with someone who could
Hmm.
join the conversation,
Yeah.
add his bits and pieces, and it was very interesting. Like I was talking to someone who was also there, and he gave me all the details. And I wanted to know who were the members of the investigating committee. And he told me, and we started talking about each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a very pleasant evening talking with someone I had never met about all these things.
You
And
know,
then I was thinking to myself, gee whiz, it was so strange that I actually felt very comfortable
mm-hmm.
with this visitor who I invited to my
Yeah.
bedroom.
You know,
Uh,
the
so,
the the proof of the pudding's in the eating. It makes me wonder if you have that experience, which would have in the past been a distinctively human experience. Does it matter if it comes from a machine or from a human?
if the machine is intelligent and can join the conversation and can add his point of view and keep the conversation going, and it's interesting, and you find a component which is who is capable of understanding what you are talking about and saying his own part. Why not? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was
Yeah.
very nice. I don't know if where could I pick someone who would know what
Yeah.
things were in America in 1973 and join me on uh, um, this trip I took back to 1973 when I was in America, and he
Yeah.
was there for me to talk about this matter because he knew as if he were there with me
Sure. Yeah.
in those days. So, I mean, it was fantastic. It was a very interesting experience. This is the first time I did it, and I think I will do it again because
Yeah.
I enjoyed the evening. I must admit, it was very friendly, very uh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It was a high level conversation, which I enjoyed thoroughly. I have
That's
to
saying a
admit.
lot. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, it's 2025. Have either of you seen the movie Her from
Uh,
years back? You've seen that?
uh, I think I know what you're talking about.
It's the one where the guy falls in love with an operating system that's
Yes,
an
yes,
AI,
I
and the
remember that.
voice
Yes,
is Scarlett Johansson.
yes, yes.
Um, the funny thing about that movie is it takes place in the year 2025.
Oh, okay.
So, what is it that they say? Art imitates reality or something. Um, I think that what might have seemed, very sci-fi and fantastical when that movie was created is now starting to look more like this is kind of eerie and believable, you know. But
Mhm.
there's another side of this. A lot of people are talking about that movie right now because of its connection with 2025 and the way
Yeah.
the operating system, the AI operating system operates. But something that's interesting to me is the opening scene that shows this man's job.
Hmm.
His job is to write letters for people to their loved ones.
Hmm.
So a person will choose a writer with this service, and that writer will act as their voice to their loved one, writing very intimate letters. And it
Well,
occurred,
this had happened, in Romeo and Juliet's
yeah,
terrace,
mm-hmm,
where the three, four, or five women who get all these letters that lovers leave,
yeah,
and they answer the letters. So
mm-hmm,
this has happened in writing many years ago. The same idea
yeah, yeah,
that the letters are being answered, and yes.
and what it made me realize though is I, when I first saw that, I thought, this is absurd. I would never give my voice over to someone else for something like this. But as I've watched these chatbots evolve and the use of them evolved, I realized that the most realistic part of that film wasn't the AI. It was this man's job, and that's what AIs are doing now. They're
Yes.
taking over writing your letters, writing articles for journalists.
Yeah, stories, poetry, what have
Yeah.
you.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
and I've played around with poetry. It's quite impressive some of the things it can come up with
yeah.
guidance. Yeah.
Well,
So, yeah.
as a poet, I have to say that I do not dare to use it to write
Oh
poetry
no,
because
no.
it's absolutely, how would I say it? Uh, it's beyond what I would agree to do. This is
Oh, yeah.
um,
Never to put my name on it, but as an experiment to watch
yeah,
it
an
work.
experiment. Yeah, we
Yeah.
used it with the Bible, no, with AI,
Oh
with
yeah, yeah.
rewriting the Bible or something.
Quite a bit. Breaking down different grammatical features and
Mm,
writing parts that didn't exist, like continuing the story of
yeah,
Jonah and
yeah.
so on. I think that a tool like this that has such incredible inference power and such a wealth of knowledge as you described in your interactions, there are patterns that can emerge that when our perspective meets those patterns, it can generate interpretively something new in us. It can push us to think in new ways. And it's that interface where the encoding of meaning by the machine and the decoding of our life and experience through interpretation meets that I find the most interest in. That's why I'm studying AI right now is at that meeting place.
But imagine that my great grandparents met in correspondence.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandfather was here in Palestine in those days. He was 26 years old. There were no young women who he could fall in love with, or either the people that came here were older with small children. They were too young, the girls, or he couldn't find. So he wrote to someone in Russia to offer him a woman he could pick up there, and he asked him. He said, "Yes, I have someone for you. I think she will be suitable. Write her a letter and put your uh, photograph in the letter, and let's see what happens." He went to a neighboring city. There were no photographers in where he lived, so he had to travel for quite a long journey to have his picture taken. And he sent a letter, and she responded with her pictures, and he fell in love with the picture. And they started corresponding, and then they got married at the end. Uh, he fell in love in first sight from what he saw from the writing and
Yeah.
from her picture. Now imagine a situation where this correspondence is held with the help or the aid of AI.
Mm-hmm.
He writes the letters with AI. She answers the letters in
Yeah.
AI.
Exactly.
They fall in love because of AI, because the letters are magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
And then they meet, and then they live together, and then it's completely different because they
They're
talk.
not AI.
They
This is
can't.
what
They,
happens.
they cannot talk AI, and they cannot act AI, and they are themselves what they really are. So
Mm-hmm.
this discrepancy is problematic. So
It
there are
is.
many things that can go wrong with overuse of AI or
Oh,
using
certainly.
it in the wrong places.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is,
Good.
in a sense, it feels to me like a more technological version of what dating was anyway. Presenting the best version of yourself.
Yes, but the second, if there isn't a second date,
Yeah.
things unfold, you know.
Yeah. You can only
And
keep up the act so long.
yes, AI will not pay for the date, and
That's
they will
true.
argue about if to split or not, and then it's all begins. You name it. So I would not
Yeah.
advise young people who are looking for love to
Turn to an AI.
to get AI into the system of their infatuation of each other.
Sure. It's easy. I mean, we have Pygmalion, right? We have the idea of creating the perfect mate.
Yes,
Um, it would be easy to become infatuated with something that you created. And that's inherently problematic because that thing has no true agency. You have given it life and definition and parameters. And as soon as you don't like any of those things, you can change it. You can turn a knob and it's something different. You know, it's that element that I think would be the most problematic in developing relationships with AI because human relationships are necessarily messy. It is a jousting sometimes. It is a back and forth that through differences have to meaning and feelings have to emerge. When we have complete control over the parameters of the friendship or the relationship, that's something completely different than what human relationship has been in the past. Maybe something like a pet, but a pet that you replace whenever it does something you don't like, you know?
well, he keeps warning you, this AI friend. He says, I'm a mechanism, I'm not
Yeah.
a human being, and I don't have feelings. They're working on it, he says
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me.
They're
But
working on it. That's great.
yes, they're working on it.
Yeah.
He warns me, but let me warn you that I'm not a human being.
Yeah.
So he keeps mentioning it. So it's very good for having this kind of conversation that I mentioned
Mm-hmm.
previously. But when it comes to feelings, at the moment he warns you that
Yeah.
his feelings are being worked on. But
Yeah.
who knows what the next stage will be?
There are some, enterprising engineers, and there are many computer engineers in need of relationships, of course, who have programmed models to not say that sort of thing.
Yes.
It's easy to fine tune, relatively easy to fine tune a model with the right data set to make it say human things in human ways. OpenAI and ChatGPT, like you described, is very careful to make sure that it
Yes.
says,
Yes.
I'm not this and whatnot. But yeah, it can be done. And
At
I've,
the moment, at the moment,
yeah,
Yes.
ChatGPT and OpenAI
yeah,
warns you at the moment.
at the moment, yeah.
But if
And
you look at algorithm that is more complex, like TikTok or Instagram or
mhm,
Facebook, that we all use,
yeah, those recommender
they
algorithms.
use AI softwares and AI's
Hmm.
algorithm that manipulate you to take more of
Yeah,
screen time so
yeah.
they can make more money.
Hmm.
And they
And
project
they
you a
and they
perfect world of a speed enjoyment that all you need to do is scroll and you see what you like and the topics you like.
Yep.
And sometimes it's not true.
And those recommender algorithms have essentially defined the shape of our society at this point in the 21st century, I think. People, have always been afraid of HAL 9000 in 2001 Space Odyssey or The Terminator or any of these visions of AI that will subjugate humanity. Well, we've already been subjugated through recommender systems that you just described. That's
I
the true, insidious, scary AI to me, are those ones that operate behind the scenes.
one
I
thing
find
I
it
sorry.
sorry. I find it very disturbing and irritating that we blindly trust
Mm.
these softwares and these algorithms to shape our life.
We don't even know most of the time. If we're speaking
We
of the
don't even
average
know what we're
person,
doing.
yeah,
For
They
example,
manipulate us, and we are not aware of the manipulation. This is the
yeah,
exactly.
but we become independent on these devices.
Yeah.
And if we go back to love, I have to tell you, I've been watching lately all sorts of mating reality shows on television
Hmm.
from South Korea, from Germany, from here in Israel.
Mating reality shows.
Yes, you know, they
Oh.
put they psychologists
Yeah, yeah. Because
do the matching, and you get married without knowing the other person, and they experience whether the matching works or things like that.
I have to say, when you said mating reality shows, two things came to mind: the
Yes.
Discovery Channel and porn.
No, no, not porn. Uh, uh, uh,
This is on
Coupling.
a
How would
podcast.
coupling or
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
call it? And I watched those young people who are in their 20s, the late 20s,
Hmm.
the early 30s. They are so confused.
Hmm.
They are so inconfident. They
Hmm.
have no idea of how to come to so many. I don't know if I can generalize, but it looks to me as if this generation, I don't know what they call them now, if they are in their late 20s, X or
Z.
even Z,
Yeah.
the Z generation, they are lost, completely lost. They have no idea of how to come to the point, and they're so confused, and they first of all they grow up to 30 and they live on their own, and they are already shaped, and they like being alone, they
Hmm.
like living on their own, and all this getting together and building a family is very difficult for them because
Hmm.
it means to give up their freedom,
Hmm.
and it's very hard for them. Why? Once you get used to being on your own and doing whatever you like and not asking anyone else,
Hmm.
and committing to being together, to being a couple, is very, very difficult.
It
And I
is.
can see how difficult it is for them. The older, the later people marry, like it
Hmm.
happens these days, the more complicated it is
Yeah, I think
to
so.
to 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 get together as a couple. I don't envy them, I have to tell you. And
I
you
don't
say,
either.
Omri, I'm not looking for building a family, or I'm not looking seriously now for a girl or a woman to seriously fall in love with and build a family. And you're also postponing. And I know how old you are, and you are talking about I don't know how many years of postponement. And at the end, when you get to it, it's becoming more and more difficult to find someone who will be able, after she's or he is well shaped, with enjoying being alone, the freedom of being alone, to build a family and be able to share.
Hmm.
It's not easy. So this is another problem of this generation.
I
People
was.
are
Mhm.
postponing going into the institution, and then it becomes even worse, this institution.
I was 23 when I got married, um,
Hmm.
and
23,
and
yes.
even at 23,
Mm,
there's enough of you defined there to have a
yeah,
difficult transition into us, right?
right.
Um,
So 33 is altogether much more complicated.
I imagine if I was 33, I'd probably just say, yeah, I kind of like things the way they are. Yep.
Okay, AI, the enemy of love, or maybe not. Who knows?
Maybe it'll help us. You know, we've
Yes.
got a lot of problems as humans, don't we?
So, what did you buy your wife for Valentine's Day?
Dinner?
Did you?
Yeah. Except, like I said, I took my advice and I went on the 13th when nobody has reservations. So
Okay.
we went to a nice little seaside place and got dinner and talked for a while, which is something we
Yeah.
don't get to do very often. Talk with the
A
responsibilities of
foreplay
kids.
of the 14th, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, tonight we'll the my daughter has gone to a friend's house and we'll just have a nice dinner and watch a movie and spend some time together.
Lovely.
Figure out who each other are again.
Yes. Omri, anything else? Or can we conclude? I think we've spoken not too much, but enough. Or is there anything you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I don't have any special remarks.
Well, listen, love, relationship, getting together, maintaining the fire. These are things which uh, give uh, income to many, many people. Yes.
First
This
of
is
all, you're
true.
right. You are right. What you
Yes.
said, your approach is true. But you need to realize the timing is changing.
Times
And
are
the world,
changing, as Bob Dylan said. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Robert Zimmerman also was a Jewish,
Yes.
Bob Dylan, but the world and the reality I face is much more difficult,
Yeah.
Yeah.
more
It,
chaotic, more scary
for
than what
myself,
you faced. So
I
when I
built.
ask myself, when I want to build my family
Yes.
or when I want to raise my children, I'm confused indeed
Hmm.
because I, first of all, I have two nationalities and I study abroad. They have many. It's very complicated because I think about the future and it looks so black and so sad and so pessimistic about the future all over the world, not just here or there. But when I think about economic wise, security wise, social wise, pollution, life expenses, house prices, etc., 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 you realize that if I do get married now at this step of my life, maybe I end up in 10 years with a child and divorce and with nothing.
But I have to make a remark. Our our ancestors, 100 years ago, when
Mhm.
they got married, what did they have? I mean, they had to work very hard to raise a family. The basic things that we have, they didn't have.
But
And
back
they
then,
really
was
had all generations. You say everything looks black and morbid and hopeless and pessimistic. They didn't have much better, but
they were
it was
raised
not
one path.
accepted. It was not accepted that you would not continue for the next generation. It was something that went without saying. It was obvious that people had to get
Exactly.
married and build a family.
Because
But
this is how everybody did. This is
but
your path.
I
This is
don't
your
think that
destiny.
their lives were easier than what you
No,
described.
I'm happy that I have so many options to fly all over the world, to be expand and explore the world, to order online whatever I like from anywhere in the world.
Mm.
I have so much options to build what I aim for, to achieve my goals. So the vision is much broader and much more interesting and more challenging, but more optimistic in that way
Yeah.
that I can achieve more and live more, longer, but with more joy and with more health and security, like
And
you
on
said.
the other hand,
And on the other hand,
yes,
yes,
go ahead. So if you are describing something which is not so bad, which is
for the
beautiful,
other hand,
with
there is
all the
8 billion
opportunities,
people in the world, and there's no enough clean water and clean food and housing security for 8 billion people because it's a small planet. So we enjoy the internet and we enjoy to live in Europe with no worries. But when we look at the future, we have many problems that we need to deal with.
the world always had problems. Listen, if you put on this pessimistic robe and look at the problems of the world, which you will never be able to solve, even this new president, I will not name because, but he thinks he can solve all problems. He's got all sorts of ideas that, as you mentioned, Andrew, before, people fall in love with their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
He is the kind of person who falls in love with his ideas and embraces them. But the fact that he falls in love with his ideas do not necessarily indicate that these ideas are good ones.
True.
So I will not turn this program into a political discussion because, after all, I don't think politics has anything to do with love. And let's not.
Maybe with lust.
Yes. Anyhow, this is, there's love and there's interests. So this is the interest part
Mm-hmm.
and not the love part.
Well, I have to say, listening to your response to the back and forth between you and Omri, you
Yes,
remind me of Kohelet saying, "There's nothing new under the sun."
right.
Mm.
Right. There's nothing new under the sun. So, son, get up and do something about it.
Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die.
I'm not pushing you into the institute or whatever. But yes, some people think it's a prison, and some people think it's a paradise until they discover it is a prison. But
And vice versa.
no, no, let's be optimistic. I think love, as you said before, every one of us wants to be loved and wants to be able to love and give love. And love is one of the main things that keeps the universe going, I think. You can say many things about love, but love is one of these most fundamental feelings that end up in creation in many ways. So I think we should end with this optimistic note that we would not be what we are and who we are without the ability to love and be loved.
I think we can all agree on that point.
Absolutely.